This is your host, Jason Snellgrove, and I will be your guide as we journey down the road to pleasure hunt or hitting the long trail to those great comp hunts. This is the Coonhound Collective podcast. Hey guys, this is Jason over at the Coonhound Collective podcast. I'm here today to tell you about one of our sponsors, Conky's Outdoors. Whether you need a few dog collars or the whole setup, they can fix you up. They have a wide range of products from hound hunting to fishing. My friends over at Conky's Outdoors can help you out. You can order online at conkysoutdoors.com. Call them at 904-692-1568, 904-692-1568, or if you're in the Hastings, Florida area, go by and see them. Again, that's at conkysoutdoors.com because we support people who support our way of life.
Like you said, it's going to take hard hunters and people with time. I mean, it's going to have to take getting off the couch, turning off Gunsmoke, and hit the woods. I mean, you're going to have to hunt. You can't sit on Facebook and think you're going to make a coon dog there because it won't work.
That voice you hear there is Mr. Jason King. Boy, what he said ain't true. I think I've been guilty of watching too much Gunsmoke and playing Coon Hunter on Facebook a time or two. But you're going to want to pull your boots up, make sure your lights are charged, because we cover all things that are leopard that he has to do with, a walker dog that he's hunting, and just hunting in general. Stay tuned. We're about to hit the woods. All right. Thank you for joining us today on the Coonhound Collective podcast. Today we're going to talk with Mr. Jason King, and we're going to have him join us via telephone.
Hello.
Jason, how's it going?
I'm doing great.
Can't complain, man. Jason, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
All right, Jason, I'm from Southwest Virginia. I live in Tazewell County. I've lived in this area basically my whole life. Growed up here. It's just a quiet little town. Just, you know just about everybody. And I've been fortunate and been blessed to be in this part of the country. A lot of hills. A lot of hollers, not a lot of flat ground, very few farms. Farms is not really close. You have to do a lot of driving to get into farmland. It's just all mountains and hollers here.
Yeah, well, that's kind of sounds like the terrain that I'm currently living in. I'm originally from southeast Alabama, so I'm from flatland farm country, but I live in southwest Missouri and the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. And as Brett Stevens said in my previous podcast, you would have to throw corn out of a sack to see any corn growing around here anywhere, because there's not none.
That's right. We don't have no food source. About the only thing we have for our coons to eat here is acorns and we got some pokeberries and wild grapes. Got some autumn olive bushes. I don't know if you ever heard of them. The coon like them. We have a very big abundance of black bear in our country too. A lot of bear. We got a pretty good deer population here. Seemed to be a lot of squirrel this year, but our coons is very few and far between.
Yeah, well, I definitely understand that. We have a thin coon population here this year too. We had we believe something like feline distemper or something come through and wipe them out. But how'd you get started into coon hunting?
When I was a child, growing up, my grandfather and my dad, they've always coon hunted about their whole entire life, and they got me involved with coon hunting when I was very young. I was roughly about 4 years old on my first coon hunting trip. I can remember it vaguely. We treated a couple coon that night, and I'll never forget the sound of them dogs. Just start striking that track and treeing that coon. It just done something to me that night. I actually got my uncle. He bought me a cricket chipmunk 22 rifle. I've got one of the original ones. I've still got it today. That's what I take coon hunting with me. But as growing up, just got involved with different hounds. We always just coon hunted in the fall of the year. Then in the spring, we started running rabbit beagles. And we'd run rabbit beagles through the summer and just coon hunt in the fall. There's no summertime coon hunting. I was never involved with none of that. We just pleasure hunted. That's all we ever done.
Okay. Well, that's kind of similar to what I did. Of course, being from southeast Alabama, you didn't want to really be in the woods too much, in the summertime. It was hot, snakes, and every other thing that was out there. have you always had leopard hounds, or did you start with something different?
We started out mainly hunting walkers. I owned some blue ticks, had a real nice blue tick when I was about 13, 14 years old, and hunted mainly walkers. Like I said, I had a blue tick. I tried plot, a couple red bones. Never was successful with them until I think I was about 15 years old. A friend of mine, he took me coon hunting with some mountain curs. There was a Kimmer stock mountain curs. And once I hunted with them cur dogs, the hounds, I strayed away from the hounds. I devoted all my time into mountain curs. I like the ability, the brains, and how well they minded, which I never did own a tracking system. We just always went out and either walked with the hounds as we cut them loose, or the cur dogs as I got older. They probably didn't hunt out probably about 150 to 200 yards, but up here in these mountains and stuff, when you'd cut one loose, you'd just walk up the holler or walk down the creeks, and mainly on the ridges, and hopefully that they'd get something struck pretty quick. We road hunted some too, just rode the dog out in front of the truck. I done that up till I was about 19 years old. Then I started dating, and I actually quit coon hunting. I sold the last cur dog I had to my uncle, and just got away from coon hunting altogether, squirrel hunting, and I picked up fishing, started fishing. I fished quite a bit for several years. Then in 2015, a friend of mine that was working with me at that time, he called me up. He said, "Hey, let's go coon hunting tonight." And I said, "Man," I said, "I haven't hunted in years." I said, "I don't want to get involved back in that." I said, "It's just takes too much time, to get started back into coon hunting." And I know what I know you had to devote your time to have a good dog. And, well, needless to say, he kept on nagging me, and I ended up going with him. His name's Brody Dean. We got out that night, and we started coon hunting, and he had a couple walker dogs. They got in there and got treed. And, man, I remember walking up that hill, and I was a little bit overweight at that time, too. I about had 3 heart attacks walking up that mountain. Got in there, that dog treed, and, man, I tell you what, it just lit the fire, and I was right back hooked that night. When I left there, I was dead set on getting another hound.
Yeah. Before we move forward on these leopards, those cur dogs that you were hunting, was y'all treeing squirrels with those in the daytime and coons at night, or were you just strictly coon hunting them?
I was actually I would squirrel hunt. I'd squirrel hunt the same dog. I'd squirrel hunt him and coon hunt him both, and I never had no trouble with him treeing squirrel at night. I think, and he didn't open up on track none. I mean, he was just all nose, and I only had him open up on a coon track that I know of only one time on a coon. And I mean, he actually drove that coon. It was late in the fall, the year I can remember that hunt. He struck that coon out in that holler, and I mean, he drove that track. And 90% of them, they didn't make it 75 yards, and he had them treed. But that one there, it run a good ways. But they was all tight mouth dogs.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to Mr. Steve Fielder with Gone to the Dogs podcast. He had a guy on there that hunts cur dogs, and they've always intrigued me some. And I actually have a little leopard female here I picked up out of Illinois that's just a puppy that I kind of want her to, I got a piece of property here. I just let her run free. I kind of want her to tree squirrels and, maybe be able to coon hunt her at night, but we'll see what happens with her. And that's kind of what pushed me towards getting one, was the idea of it having some cur background where it would possibly tree squirrels and, kind of hang around the house, be a yard dog and a hunting dog too.
Right. Well, that was sort of the way it was with me when I started back hunting with my friend. I searched. I mean, I dug back in some old books and started calling people, and where I'd been out of it for several years of coon hunting, and I was looking for that mountain cur or Kimmer stock mountain cur. It didn't really matter to me as long as it was a good blooded dog, and I tried several different ones out of big name dog, and I spent a lot of money on them. Just was not successful. I mean, I would get them started and there'd be something off, there'd be something just not clicking right. A friend of mine, he called me, and he goes to my dad's church, and my dad, he's a pastor. He called me up and he said, "Hey, I got this dog up here. He's a little walker dog. Why don't you come up and try him and see if you like him?" I said, "Nah." I said, "I'm not going back to hounds." I said, "I've had these mountain curs for so many years." I said, "I just can't I can't go back to a hound. He said, no, you'll like him. And I went up there and I tried him. And that night, that little Walker dog, he treed 2 singles by himself. He split treed one time. And I never in my whole life ever coon hunted with a dog that actually split treed. The dogs that I hunted with as a child, they all treed together. And they weren't none of this going over here to a dog treat with a coon backwards and forwards. So I seen that and I said, told him, I said, you sure you want to give me that dog? And he said, yeah. He said, he's yours. And well, I took him home. I hunted that dog that fall from January to March. And if I'm not mistaken, I killed 47 coons with that dog. He was a really nice Walker dog, very accurate. But he didn't have papers. He was just a grade dog. But needless to say, he was really nice. And I overheard a guy talking about some leopard hounds, and I really didn't know much about them. Another guy I went to church with, J.R. Ellswick, he called me up, and he said, hey, I actually, me and my dad, we was on a fishing trip down in Tennessee. My buddy, that's when he called me. He said, hey, I found you this dog. I said, where in the world is that? He said, it's in Georgia. And we got to talking. I said, well, I don't have Facebook, which he did. He said, I'll get his phone number. He messaged him. He got his phone number, and I called him up. We started talking. His name is Eric Fuzzle, lives in Carson, Georgia. We started talking on the telephone. He was telling me all the bad things about the dog. He said he's treeing very little. He'll tree a squirrel or two, but he's not really doing too good on coon. And he said he's really not for sale. And I said, well, make me a price. I said, I'd love to try one of them. He said, well, sir, he said, I'll tell you. He said, I don't believe you'd really like this dog. He'll eat you out of house and home. And he just kept on giving me negative comments on him, but something inside of me just said, you need to get that dog. And I said, I got off the phone with him, and I told Dad, I said, I'm gonna call him back and just make him an offer. And I called him back, and he said, hey, he said, well, he said, when do you want to come and get him? I talked to my dad. He said, then we'll drive down there tomorrow and pick him up. And we got in the truck. We was on it. Like I said, we planned on staying there a whole week and fishing. And we just got in the vehicle and left and drove to Georgia and picked up Moose. And when we got down there, that dog, he got him out of the truck. On paper, his name was Blackjack. When we got down there, and we walked in this little restaurant, and we was sitting down eating and talking. And he had some other leopard dogs. Like I said, I didn't really know anything about them. I mean, just coming in this thing blind. I didn't know what breed to go with or what pedigree to stick to. All I was just a blank piece of paper. Just didn't know nothing about the leopard hound. And we go out to the truck, and he gets that dog out of the truck. And when he gets him out, he steps out on the ground. And he said, boy, he's a big one, ain't he? I said, yeah. He said, he's big as a moose. I said, that's his name right there. And my dad, he said, oh God. He said, I can't believe you're going to call that dog Moose. He said, people think you're crazy. I said, well, that's his name. Well, I was in a Jeep Wrangler. And the whole way when we put him in the truck, he just in the back of that Jeep in the back seat, he just laid his head right between the seats as we was driving up the road. He just was a very loving type of dog. Just like a pet, basically. I mean, you think a 16-month-old dog would be just hyperactive, just dying to get out of the vehicle, but he just laid there just like he'd known us his whole life. We stopped up there beside the road, got him out, and let him use the bathroom, and I just couldn't believe how well mannered the dog was, and it just really surprised me compared to the hound, as the curs. I said, this dog acts just like the cur dogs that I had when I was 14, 15 years old. And well, we got going up the road, we loaded back up, and we got home, and a friend of mine, he called me when I was on the way home. He said, hey, I've got got a coon up here. He said, why don't you bring that dog up here and let's see what he'll do on this coon? I said, he might not do nothing. I said, I really don't know. But I said, we got to get started with him basically like a pup, because I believe that's all, he had never had an opportunity of none. And as I was coming back up the road, coming to the house, that guy called me from Georgia, Eric did. He said, yeah. He said, I was going to tell you this. He said, I forgot to tell you. He said, yeah, when he was he said, the dog really hasn't had a chance. He said, he actually got on a cutover somewhere. They must have been down there in Georgia where there's clear cutting. And he said he got a cut up the side of his leg. I think he had like 50 or 60 stitches up the back side of his leg. So he was basically laid up. he was just a 16-month-old pup, really didn't know nothing. So I told him what I was going to do. He said, well, he might do something, he might not. Well, when I got home, I went to my buddy's house and I got that coon. And I took him up on the mountain and turned that coon loose. And old Moose, he run that coon and he treated, and just like he'd done it his whole life. And I called Eric back and told him what he'd done. He was excited that Moose had treated that coon. And from that day on, I just started hunting a lot by itself. I run into a couple guys that I've become really good friends with, Jack Earls and Doug Dye. We started hunting together. I started taking Moose out with them. And Moose, he actually he was running a track one night. My buddy hunts black and tans, and his black and tan was treed, and old Moose, he was taking this track up this hog. And I said, look how stupid that dog is. I said, he's going the wrong way. And I said, he's not going over here with this dog. He needs to be treated with this black and tan because it's got a coon. Doug was telling me that he was independent. And, I didn't know nothing about the dog being independent. Like I said, I just always thought if one dog was treed, the other one should be treed with. So here I am watching this dog develop into what he is. And he goes up there and he gets treed and he's got a coon. And so I just petted him up, loved on him, and I just started seeing him progress. And that was in May and June, May, June, July, August. I put him in his first hunt. And I won both casts when I put him in his hunt. I'd never been in a UKC hunt before in my life. Didn't know nothing about it. And all I know to do was strike him and tree him. That's all. That's the only two things I know. And I won first place with his first two hunts. And then I went a couple weeks later to another one, and I made him a night champion with 3 first place wins. That was before the rules was changed, to where now you just got to have cast wins. You got to have 5 cast wins. Back then you had to have at least 1 first and a second, a third to be able to night champion a dog. And I just took the opportunity there. I said, I'm going to sit back and just pleasure hunting. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to pleasure hunt him and not worrying about grand night. And that was the least thing on my mind to even think about was grand night, making him a grand night. Well, my other friend, J.R. Ellswick, and some other guys, they called me and said, you need to put that dog and grand him out and get him granded. And I was like, why? I mean, I see no point in rushing anything. He said, well, you just need to get it done. Well, I got out there and I started hunting him around, pleasure hunting some more. Well, April rolled around and we had an RQE at our club over here at the Black Diamond Coon Hunters Association here in Southwest Virginia, and which I become a member of that coon club, after I got Moose, because like I said, that club was there, but I never know, like I said, I didn't know anything about a coon club or being involved with anything like that. Well, that night I went to that hunt. They had 68 entries, and I put Moose in there as a night champion. I hunted against 3 grand night champions, and they were all well-known walker dogs. And that night as we drawed out, we went to the woods. I had no clue on what was going to take place that night, and went out there and cut him loose, and right off the bat, I took second strike, first tree. He had a coon. The dog took first strike. He went on up the holler, and he had a coon. So we scored 2 coons there. We went to another place and turned loose, and dog didn't look too good on that drop. Then a couple guys withdraw, and then it was just me and 2 other fellers the rest of the night because their dogs drawed a lot of minus on that second turnout. And with that cast going on, I end up with right at 700 plus points that night. And I wasn't doing the judging. Josh Honaker from down towards the Tennessee area. Well, actually, I believe he lives in Clintwood. He was actually the judge that night. And when we got back in the truck, he said, you know what? I said, what? He said, you have probably won this whole thing. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you've probably won first place. And I just sat there in that truck, and I didn't realize, I didn't even know what the score was that night because I was just striking and treeing my dog. And I didn't even know what the score, and he told me what the score was. And man, I just sat there in that truck and I just started crying. I mean, I really did. I was crying, just tears of joy. I was so excited. We started back down the road and we got to the clubhouse. We was the last ones to get back, and I walked in there and handed them that scorecard, and they walked in there to me and they said, go get your dog. And I went and got Moose and come in there still not knowing what was going on. And I won first place that night, that hunt. And that was probably one of the most memorable wins, was that night. Just that's competing against all of these local dogs that are coon dogs. You know, they're great hounds right here in this country, and that was just that meant a lot to me that night.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I know I've never won a whole lot competition hunting, but I did place 6 in a AKC World Qualifier with old black and tan dog I had, and I can still remember that cast tonight. You touched on something there, though, that just for a minute and go down a rabbit trail here. Do you think UKC changing that rule where you don't have to have that first place to be a night champion, you think that's hurt or devalued the night champion status a little bit?
Well, me personally, you know, I know what it took when I got into it after I learned. I mean, it's a little bit more prestige. You know, I think the dogs that had the titles back then, you know, before the rule change, now people don't look at a grand night the same as they did back then. You know, you had to have them first place wins, and I think still this day, I think it should be like that. I mean, that's just my opinion, but you know, the cast wins is still a cast wins, but I still think you need them first place wins. I think they ought to have them first place wins before they can get them titles.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I had this conversation with another fellow last night, and we had the exact same conversation about, you know, them doing away with the first place wins, kind of devalued the night champion status a little bit. Anyway, just my opinion as well, and I think quite a few other people feel the same way. So Moose put you in the leopard hound business. It sounds like he definitely put you in the competition business. Did you have other leopard hounds you were hunting at the same time?
No, sir. I didn't know anything real. You know, I was still new to it, and I didn't know really even where to go. But like I said, my friend there, JR, he just kept on telling me, he's like, you need to start finding some females. You need to find some females. And he said, you got something special. Everybody in this part of the world, country in here, they all knowed about it. And everybody was talking about how good he was because, you know, it was like, you need to start breeding that dog. And I was like, man, where am I going to find something at? You know, and so really and truthfully, my goal was, before I even thought about breeding him, I wanted to grand him out. And I granted, far as I know, I didn't, because the print the paperwork off that time, I think it was like $100 some dollars to go through UKC to see if they were the youngest dog that was a grand night champion, which I granted him out at that time. He was 2 years old as a dual grand. And I actually called UKC. They said, well, you got to pay to have this done, which basically I done my homework, and I knowed he was, but to get that certificate, you know, it costed a certain amount of money. So after I got him granted out, the goal was to start breeding. And a friend of mine had a red bone female, and the first dog I bred him to was a red bone, and it was an X-bred cross. But that litter of pups are 4 years old. They're going on 5. I know of one of them that is a grand night champion out of that first litter, and several of them turned out to be really nice bear dogs. And actually, there's three that I know of, 3 really nice coon dogs out of his first litter, and one grand night champion. Rest of them are bear dogs. I found a female that was a half mate to Moose. A guy in Gate City on her. Pete Barber's his name, and we got talking, and which they got the same daddy but different mommy. So we made a cross there, Moose to her, and out of that cross, that's where I had a friend of mine up in West Virginia, Scott Little. He bought one of them pups, and her name is Black Betty. He started hunting her, and I got a male pup out of that cross. And he didn't suit me, and but the guy that raised him, he wanted him back, so I gave him back. I gave him back to Pete. And my buddy Scott Little contacted me, and he said, I've got this female cranking. He said, you need to push her and see what you can make out of her. And I met him, and I got Betty, and I started hunting her. And within 4 months, I took her from a night champion to a grand night in 4 months. Made her a grand show champion, a HTX champion, and plus I've made Moose when he was young too. I made him a HTX champion, and I think that HTX title is probably one of the most important titles a dog can have. I look at that a dog can go out by itself and tree a coon. So that being said, they was some more people come, and I bred a few leopards. I still hadn't found the right caliber of dog that I was looking for is in a female to breed moose too for myself, my personal cross. A friend of mine, we was at a trade day up in Tazewell, Virginia, and there was a female up there. And needless to say, looked at her papers, and it was another half-mate to moose. So me and a guy, we bought her. We went in halfers and bought that female, and we bred her, and she had some pups. And I kept one and sold the rest of them. And there was 2 or 3 out of that litter made really nice dogs. A couple of them had some accidents. I think they got ran over, and just some bad licks happened. And the female that I had, I sent her to my friend down in Gate City, Mr. Pete Barber, and he actually just granted her out this past summer. She granted out as a Grand Night champion, and she's a really nice female, and which that's another one out of moose that's she competed all against Walker dogs too, and she really she's a real accurate female, but she's not a wide hunting dog. She's probably about a 300 or 400 yard dog, and but she's very accurate when she gets treed. She's got the meat. So as that going on, I had some more people come and breed some different leopards, and I end up my friend there. He had a Walker female. He contacted me and he said, let's make cross on that dog. And we made another X-bred cross on a Walker female, and that it was a heavy Riverbend flag. And most of them pups, they turned out, and some of them turned out decent bear dogs. I know where one is right now, a friend he wouldn't take a farm in Georgia for. I mean, I reckon he'll wriggle. I mean, he's a truck to tree kind of dog on bear. He is a top-notch bear dog. And I bred some dogs that goes back, another Walker female, a guy contacted me. She's real old Sackett blood, goes back to that Hammer and Hank and different real old blood. And a friend of mine got one of them pups. His name is, that dog's name is Rufus. He's a night champion. Night champion him out. He is a hard tree dog. I was actually handling him on a cast one night, and we was down on this farm, and this dog, he winded this coon across this river and swam this river, and I mean, it was cold, and he swam that river, went over and treed that coon, and done an outstanding job. And that night, that finished him out to be a night champion. And as time goes on, Miss Penny Johnson from Michigan, she contacted me. She had been sick. She had cancer. She contacted me one day. I was at work. It was in the fall. It was in the winter time. She said, I've got this real nice female up here that I think you'd be interested in. And I was like, we started discussing everything and the process of getting this female. And they had a cabin in Kentucky, her and her husband, Jim Johnson. And they met me down in Pikeville, Kentucky, and I drove down there to Pikeville, and I picked up this female, and her name was Wicks Miss Camo Missy is her name. When I picked her up, she was about 19 months old, and she had been raised in the house, hadn't really been outside hunting very little, but she said she would tree a squirrel and different things. And well, when I got that dog home, it took me about 7 days to take up with her. And it wasn't that she was just skittish. She wasn't skittish. She just took her a while to get used to people. And I called Penny and I said, look, I don't believe she's ever going to come out of her doghouse. I don't think, I really don't think it's going to work. And she said, just give her some time and she'll come around. Well, a few days later, she come around and she took up with me. And I took her hunting the very first night, and the thing about her was so much different than some of the other dogs that I'd hunted with, that she had drive. You unsnap her, she was gone like a walker. I mean, she was gone. I mean, just get gone. She didn't care if anything looked at her, went with her, or anything. She was just unsnap the lead, gone. And she was a quick strike dog and a good tree dog. I started hunting her. Me and my friend Doug Dye, we was up our coon hunting one night, and she actually took a coon the opposite direction, and she got in a situation she didn't get her track lined all the way out. We was up there treed, and we had her tied up. My other buddy's dog was treed, and she come into the tree, and I just tied her back, and I had never had her around a coon or anything. And we shot out that coon, and it was a lively coon, and she got down there, and she got bit. And when she got bit, it set her back. And it took me about 4 months to get her to even want to do anything. And once I got her back on track. I actually contemplated on sending her back to Penny because I just didn't think. I just said there's too many faults. I mean, there was, for my standard, there was just too many faults. I sent her, I called Penny. I said, look, I said, I just don't think it's going to work, Penny. And I said, I really don't. And she said, well, just give her one more chance. Would you please give her one more chance? Which, I really didn't know how sick Penny was. I knew she had cancer, and but I really didn't know how sick she was at that time. And I said, Penny, I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, I'll make a promise to you. I said, I'll make something out of her. I said, I'll do everything I can. And I started hunting that dog, and I finally got her clicking, and she was doing great. That spring, she come in heat, and I said, I'm going to breed. And I said, I'm just going to try it and see. And with that litter of pups, when I bred Moose to her, she produced out of Moose breed, I'm making that cross, she produced one Grand Night champion and 2 night champions, which they both have got wins towards being a Grand Night. Out of that litter of pups, I started seeing things, just their ability, their will to go hunting, not needing another dog to take them hunting, or just their wanting their drive. That drive that I wanted to see. I wanted to see that get going, because up here hunting, if a dog just hunts 300 yards to 400 yards, he's liable to not even strike a coon. They got to get beat. I mean, it takes a dog that's got heart. It's got to have heart to get in the woods to find a coon up here. I mean, it's just the terrain is so steep, and the coon are scarce. Well, I kept one female out of that litter, and I didn't want to keep too many. I hand placed them. I put them all in hands of hunters. I wasn't worried about money. Money wasn't the logic there. I said, I want to see these dogs get a chance out of this cross. I said, in my heart, I felt like this was going to be the greatest cross I'd ever made. And soon as I got them pups weaned, Missy, the mother to them pups, she got a fever. Her tits, they just busted open. I mean, I put medicine on her. I done everything I knowed what to do, and she passed away on me. I come home from work, and she had passed away, and I felt so bad. That was the hardest phone call I ever made, was calling Penny and letting her know what happened to Missy, and that was really hard. I let her know, but in that time, Penny had came in about 2 weeks prior to that, and picked out a pup. And the pup she picked out was Jewel. When we picked her out, she picked that out. She said, I can't take care of this dog, but she said, I want you to keep her and make her something special. And that was my goal from that day forward when we picked that pup up. And we hadn't named her, and I named her. I told Penny, I said, this dog's going to be something special. And I started taking Jewel hunting and seeing her develop. She didn't care what the other dogs done. She just went and done her own thing. And at that time, she was I really didn't start hunting her much until she was about 6 or 7 months old. I sort of let them develop a little bit, and I just seen her ability. And she was 8 months old. She split treed and had her first coon from 8 months old on. I hunted her by herself, night after night after night. I mean, I hunted 5 and 6 nights a week, sometimes 7 nights a week. I spent a lot of time with that dog, and her will and her desire. It didn't matter what kind of track she got on. She always put an end to it. And when she put an end to it, she had a coon. She just had the drive ability of any dog I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she has heart. And, to have a dog that's going to please you, it's got to have heart. And then, they got to love you just as much as you love them, and you got to consider them. I never got that dog out of the dog box. And I've heard these people say, well, my dog don't travel good. My dog don't haul good. Well, there's something off somewhere there with a dog when they don't do that. I've hauled her from Virginia to Illinois. She'd be in a dog box all the way up there, stop, maybe use the bathroom, put her back in the box, keep her in the box till time to cut her loose. She's the same dog if I would have cut her loose right there to the house. I mean, she was identical. When I put her in her first hunt, I waited I wasn't in no hurry. to put a title on Jewel. That was the least thing that I was worried about because I knew she had the ability. I wanted a full-fledged coon dog before I even thought about putting a title on her. So I just kept on pushing her and hunting her and enjoying every second of her. And I knew every bark she made. I knew, it was no hesitating when she located. You treat her. I mean, you went to her and she had a coon, and just very accurate. Never had her run junk. She never treed a possum. She's 3 years old, and I've never had her tree off game of any kind. And so we started. I got back home from Illinois, and I decided. I said, I'm going to put her in a hunt. I'm just going to go ahead and see how she does. Well, I won. I put her in 5 hunts, and I won all 5 casts, and I championed her out. I went to Leopard Days last year, and I never had done the field trials or the water racings, and she excelled at that. She was the fastest thing out there that could run that drag and do it. I mean, I got jacked up on that. I mean, I'm telling you, if we had water races and field trials here, I would probably be the first one there at every one of them. I loved it, getting to see a dog run a track like that, just in the daylight, and their speed, ability to just want to catch the game. I mean, it was just amazing. And I got involved with that, and which I made her a field champion. And I think she just needs a few more points to be a water champion. So I went ahead and put her in an HTX hunt. She's got 5 Grand Night wins, and she needs 3 more, and she'll be a Grand Night champion. But she is really nice dog. So.
Hey guys, this is Jason over at the Coonhound Collective podcast. If you're thinking about swapping to a different dog feed, give my friends a look over at extremedogfield.com. They carry 2 different lines. They carry an elite and a professional. The professional has corn, wheat, and soy in it. The elite does not have corn, wheat, and soy. Go over to extremedogfield.com, see which line and which mixture is right for you. Find a retailer near you. If you're in the southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas area, you can't find a retailer and you want to give it a shot, hit me up at the Coonhound Collective at gmail.com. I am a current dealer for Extreme Dog Fuel. I can get you pricing, I can get you dog feed. Again, go see my friends over at extremedogfuel.com. You won't be disappointed.
Back here about a couple months, well, actually it was back in November. Well, not November, I'm sorry. It was in September when I was going to Autumn Oaks. I've just been a little discouraged and trying to decide on how am I going to make the leopards better. The leopards need more. They need more dogs like Jewel and Trooper. There's a handful in the leopard breed of really good dogs, and if you look on Facebook or on the leopard pages, you'll sort of see what's out there and what's being hunted and what's being pushed. There's some really nice show dogs, and there's some good pleasure dogs out there. But to see this breed succeed and excel, it's going to take more than that. It's going to take dogs getting in the hands of hunters that knows, like guys like you, that knows what it takes to make a good coon dog, not a mediocre dog, a dog that's got drive and stamina, and that's willing to give you everything they got and win. And I was on that mission. But I just couldn't find the females to even breed moose to. I couldn't find the male that I wanted to breed a Jewel unless it was going to be immediate brother or a half brother. And I didn't want to put myself in a box to have that small circle. You can only line breed and inbreed so much, and then you ain't got nothing. It's something you got to think about. You got to think about that big picture. And I was there. I mean, I done see what they need. And so I've hunted with a few leopard dogs out of different bloodlines. And this last trip to Illinois, I called Mr. Steve Thomas from Waterloo, Iowa. He came up and we got to go hunting with. I've watched Bama on Facebook ever since he's been a young dog starting out. He actually trees squirrel and coon with him. Well, I got to go hunting with him. And Bama is a type of dog, when you cut him loose in a patch of woods, if there's 15 coons in that patch of woods, he's going to treat all 15 of them. I mean, he is a for real tree dog. I mean, he's accurate. His ability is unbelievable. I mean, he's a really nice dog, which my dogs are track minded, and I believe their dogs are more, I believe they got a better winning ability. They're more Midwestern bred dogs, and they don't have to run tracks. Here, they have to work up a track to run and tree a coon. Very seldom to see them fall dead treed in the woods with a coon. They might, if they're feeding on cherries or in acorns or oak trees eating acorns, they might fall treed, but 90% of them, they're going to be hitting a track here. So me and Steve, we went hunting that night, and I got to see his dog, and I mean, I got to see him work, and I was very impressed. Well, he didn't get to stay the next night and hunt, and he went back home. The whole time I was thinking, I'm like, that dog right there, Crofted Jewel, I believe it could make a dog, make some very unique dogs. And, as I thought about it more. And when I got back home from Illinois, I told my wife, I said, I said, I'm thinking about selling Jewel or selling half ownership of her or something to Steve. And I hadn't even talked to Steve about it, but I believe, in my mind, I knowed how he felt. And I called Steve up, and we worked out a deal. And I sold half interest to Jewel to Steve, which Jewel, she's in Iowa right now. I really truly believe them crosses, that's coon dogs to coon dogs on all generations on both sides of them dogs. They're not a sorry dog in that pedigree. It's just going to be a phenomenal cross. I really do believe that.
Yeah, well, the coon dog to coon dog thing is kind of what in my mind, I always think you need to strive for. I know, people outcross from here to there to maybe a mediocre dog to try to pick up something, but I think it's very important to try to stick, coon dog to coon dog in the long run for sure. And I really like what you said there about, the leopard breed. That was one of my questions I was going to ask you was what could we do to increase the leopard breed? I mean, you pull up at a hunt and everybody's got a walker dog there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've hunted walker dogs. I believe you're hunting a walker dog some now, but I like to show up and I like to have something a little bit different than what everybody else has. And I think you really touched on something there with what the leopard breed needs to kind of come up some from where they're at.
Right. I believe wholeheartedly, there was a comment popped up on Facebook the other day about X-breeding. I have made X-bred crosses. Well, people has brought their dogs, and I have crossed my dog to their dogs. Have I seen any difference compared to a leopard? Not personally. I have seen. I've seen moose basically be bred to. They've been dogs show up, and they probably could not even tree a coon. It's most likely. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. And out of them crosses, he'd still reproduce 2 or 3, sometimes 4 good dogs, that could run and tree a coon. But the only way you're ever going to see that goal of succeeding to have better dogs, it's going to take breeding dogs with ability to dogs with ability. And, ability makes capability. And then what you got to have a man that's willing to hunt. I mean, he can't just, I've seen over time that people says, well, I made this accidental cross. This accidental cross happened. And, I've seen breeders in the leopard breed making cross after cross after cross. And in 6 years of me being in this breed, I've not made no accidental cross. I mean, the crosses that I've made, I know what I was going to do. And then them dogs that they bred have disappeared. It's like, where are they at? They come out of the gate looking like they're going to be superstars, and then they just disappear. So there's something's going to have to happen. It's going to take true houndsmen. It's going to take, like years ago, I've done my research and studying on these leopard dogs. And, years ago, they had to be a certain age. They had to have a hunt test, which I've heard, like on Ben Sheets, he done a podcast here a while back, and even some of them hunt tests was probably bogus, just to breed dogs and to see dogs, just creating more dogs. Well, that's the situation we're in right now. We're hunting some of these leopard dogs that people are buying today, possibly some of their generations back is 4 and 5 generations, maybe 6 generations, that dogs that actually had ability to run and tree a coon. You can say, well, I just got some different dogs that just to tree, to breed. Well, them females has got to have ability. I mean, I personally believe the females got more to do with it than the male. And I believe if you can take a female that is a powerful coon dog, and you take a male that is a powerful coon dog, and you take a male that's out of a female that's been a powerful coon dog, and you breed back to that female that's out of a male that's been a powerful coon dog, and you stack them bloodlines and them traits and abilities on top of each other, you're going to create something. But once you create them leopard, you better think very serious about putting them in the hands of a hunter. And I mean, instead of thinking about selling them, I feel more concerned about putting them in the hand of I'm just going to be honest with you, to see them at hunts, to see them winning, you're going to have to put them in the hands of a hunter. I mean, a true hunter, a man that you see what's winning. The Walker dogs has blowed everything else off the map. And you put them leopards in the hands of a Walker man, he's going to tell you if it's going to make or not. I mean, he's not going to waste his time on something that's going to take it, say, well, it's 3 years old, it might make next season. Time is too short. Life is too short. I'm 37 years old. And, I sitting here and I've been thinking about this for quite a while. I was like, here these dogs is done created that what I'm looking for. I want a leopard just as good as any Walker dog, because that's what you're going to have to beat. When you get to a Final Four, you can't say, well, my dog is done, he's run out of gas. He's done weak. He ain't going to be able to go. Well, I'm telling you, it's going to have to take dogs that's got hearts like lions and that can run like a cheetah if it's going to keep up with them Walkers and accuracy. And these Walker dogs that's out here today, they're not slick treeing idiots. I'm telling you, they are accurate, and they are, times has changed compared to when I was a kid hunting with these Walkers. I had a guy comment on my Facebook the other day about like this Walker dog I'm hunting. He was surprised. He was like, I can't believe that Walker's got a coon tree. I was like, man, I didn't even reply to that. Like, I wouldn't even be packing a dog if it wasn't accurate. Accuracy is the most important thing. It ain't about how many trees you tree, or circle trees. It's in plus points, and in plus points will win every day, every time. And I hunted in a PKC hunt. We'll talk about these Walker dogs. I don't know if you want to go in that now or not. But
Yeah, go ahead. I was just fixing to ask you about the Z dog and stuff, but what you just said there was, I couldn't have said better myself. I think you hit the nail right on the head there with the breeding and what it takes to get a dog to compete. You got to get them in the hands of somebody that's going to give the dog a chance and put him in the woods. But yeah, go ahead and let's talk about Z and the Walker dog.
Okay. Right there before I get in that, I want to say this. Before I go, I haven't quit hunting leopards. Moose, he'll be here till he dies. Hopefully someday, maybe I can find the right female that I want to breed him to again. But until that time comes, I don't see no reason to breed him anymore. And that's my personal opinion. And, I would love to. I'd love to have another one out of him. But, I've just seen too many things go wrong. And, I know I love the leopards and I have pushed hard. Right now, I've done everything in my power to promote the breed and put them into hunts and show up at hunts with them. And I love them. They'll always be dear to my heart. And I'm hoping that I'm hunting dogs out of the out of Moose or out of Trooper and out of Jewel in the future. Trooper, I want to mention something about him. He has got that drive. He's got that heart like his mommy had. He's got that drive and that ability, and he will hunt all night long. I watched them out there when I hunted in Illinois this past year. You would actually have to pick them up, set them off at the tailgate at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And when they'd hit the ground, they was ready to go again. And they got that drive. They got that ability. And I really, truly believe if the right people can get a hold of some pups out of these dogs and really put the time into them, you can see in the next 4 and 5 years, you will see the ability in the leopard hounds succeed. I believe that. But it's going to take, like you said, it's going to take hard hunters and people with time. I mean, it's going to have to take getting off the couch, turning off Gunsmoke, and hit the woods. I mean, you're going to have to hunt. You can't sit on Facebook and think you're going to make a coon dog there, because it won't work. I mean, it takes dedication.
You definitely told the truth when you said that. You got to put the boot leather in the woods behind that dog. I know I just had a 19-month-old black and tan pass away from cancer here last week, and it was devastating for me, because the hours that I had in with that dog, I bought him from Michael Barnes out of Arkansas, and the hours I had in with that dog from the time he was a 8-week-old puppy till he was 19 months old and passed away, it is unbelievable. And I think a lot of people get into coon hunting and think, I'm going to just, get a dog and I'm going to go out here and competition hunt. I see these competitions going on, I'm going to go out there and hunt. But it's a lot more to it than that. You got to really put the time in with the dog, let the dog get used to you, you get used to the dog. And, I mean, I could tell you when that little black dog, I could tell you if he was blowed up on a possum, or I could tell you if he was going to have a coon when we went in there, just by way he sounded. And it takes time like that in the woods. You don't get that from sitting on the couch watching Gunsmoke, like you said. You get that from being out there in the woods with that dog every night.
Right. And telling you the truth, you look at the money that's they're putting out here right now, $6,500 for an entry fee. I mean, them guys ain't playing around. Them guys are laying out there for that dog. I mean, they are really putting the time in. I mean, they wouldn't even think. I mean, they're not playing games. I mean, and they're putting the time into them hounds. And I mean, it's don't matter if it's raining, snowing. I mean, it's out there. And I believe, truthfully and honest with you, if guys would do that with these leopards, you will see them succeed. And I've said that from time being, but the biggest thing is jealousy. And I'll mention a couple fellas' names that's really they know what good dogs is. Like Ralph Fuzznaker. He don't just drive the hunts just to be. He believes in his dogs, his leopard hounds, and he's got a good thing going on too. And they're putting the time into them. And Al McNeely down in Georgia, he's got a really nice female, which I think she's a Grand Night. Her name's Juice, and they made a cross. They crossed the Trooper to his female. So that'll be 2 Grand Nights, top and bottom, and out of Grand Night champions. And that should be something to look at to get a pup out of. I mean, I believe if people that's sincere, I believe if you're going to spend your money or your time and you want to develop your time, and even though that they can be coils in any bloodline, but I believe I'd take my chances on them dogs. And but going on towards the walkers, and well, the thing about it is, I didn't really want to when I let Steve get Jewel, I didn't want to just let her sit in the kennel, because I was going to grind her out and just start breeding her, because I think, like I said, the female's got a lot to do with it. And my good friend there, J.R. Ellsworth, he contacted me, and he said he had this nice young dog come and go hunting with. Well, we got in the truck and we drove down on the farm and turned him loose. And man, he went in there and he slammed a coon. It was 500-600 yards, just had a dying locate. I mean, he sounded awesome. I mean, walked in there, he had a coon, and recut him. He went half a mile and got treed and had another coon. Done an outstanding job. And we hunted him that week, and I didn't see no faults. I'd say I don't know how many trees I've seen the dog make. I've only seen him miss one coon out of at least 70 to 80 trees. And I mean, that's pretty good. That fired me up. Accuracy. and these dogs are wipeout bred on the top, the River Bend flag blood on the bottom, which my buddy there, he's been breeding these dogs for a while. All the bloodline on the bottom side, it's his original blood. And I hunted with this dog's mommy. Her name's Brandy, and she is one nice female. I've always liked her from the first time I was in the woods with her. Seen her ability, her hunting ability, and I really, I like I said, I don't care how good the male dog is. I really look at that female. That female has got a lot. And right now I've got Z, and I've got some half mates to him. I've got a couple pups, and I've got a 6-month-old pup, and I got some couple 10, 11-week-old pups. So right now I'm going to play with these walker dogs. Not that I have just walked away from the leopards. I'm waiting for some new leopards to hit the ground. That's out of bloodlines that I know that I want to push, and they should have the ability. And these walkers, I don't know where the future is going to go, but I can tell you this: if you're gonna cut loose, I mean, you ain't gonna pull up with a Chevette, and if you're racing a Ferrari, you're gonna have to have as good or better the Beetle, and that's the way I see it. And I know what it takes to win. And I know you got to have something that's got it. And if it ain't got it, don't show up. I mean, you can lose just as well as you can win. Every dog can have its good night or have its bad night. But, if you put the time into it, you're going to see something succeed. And, I believe in giving it all. I mean, I'm not no halfway player. I mean, I wear out 2 sets of boots a year. I mean, that's called putting time in. I'm like a junkie. I'm like Jason Darter says, when it gets dark, I start itching. I get tore all to pieces because I love it. And right now it's cold and snowing up here, and the coon ain't moving. They sort of den up here. So you're really just basically January and February, you're shut down and you can't do too much. But if you catch one night around about 25 to 30 degrees, and about 3 days after it snows, you can go out and tree 1 or 2 coons, but you probably get a lot of den trees this time of year. But it all depends on how much time you want to put out there. If that dog needs condition, I've always said a good coon dog. I've heard people say, well, he needs some coons. Well, a good coon dog, you don't have to kill them coons. 1 a week, 1 a month. I kept count. I hunted almost a solid year without killing the coon to Jewel, and she made trees after trees with coons in them, and all I do was pet on her and love on her. And I really do believe that if you have to feed them coons to make a coon dog, you don't need the dog, and it's not bred in them. They don't desire it. They supposed to love to tree that coon more than having that coon in their mouth. I believe the people that wants to knock that coon out is the hunter more than the dog. And here you can't afford to go out and kill 3 and 4 coons a night. You can kill one and get by with it, but you sort of need to skip them coons. And I mean, a young dog, I believe in knocking out a few coons to the young dogs, but I truly believe that if you give them the time in the woods, and they know what they're supposed to run in the tree, and give it them all. I really do believe if you put these dogs in the right hands and people that'll hunt them, you will see them succeed. And that's just like all the other breeds. I really do believe I've seen a big change in the Walker breed. I might be wrong. The jealousy level is, they're the Walker and the English dogs has really succeeded in the past 5 to 10 years. They have started breeding for ability, and they're not worrying about who owns what. They're breeding winners to winners. And them dogs, when they're doing that, they're creating more winners. And you sit back and watch, and if these other bloodlines would put the time into it and watch what everybody else is doing, and get off that soapbox saying, well, mine's better than theirs. Well, you're never going nowhere if you don't do that. You really got to work together. And if you work together, you can build that wall. I mean, you can build that wall full of coon dogs. And I believe that in my whole heart. And I like to see the leopard breed succeed. I like to see it get better. But then again, it starts with me and you. And if you can get 10 people that I actually hunt and put the time into it and not depend on somebody else. Well, my buddy won't go tonight, or well, that one won't go tonight. You got to go regardless of whoever wants to go, or if they want to go or don't want to go. I believe in, and I tell you something else. I've had people contact me, say, "Do you know where a pup trainer is? Where a pup trainer is, where I can get me an old dog to start a pup with." I believe if you got the right bred dog, and its bloodlines is where it's supposed to be. I believe if you let that dog get 6, 7 months old, start taking that dog out in the woods by itself, and that dog, if it's got it in it, you shouldn't need nothing to train it with. It should have the ability to go out there and run a tree them coons. I've seen it firsthand. You can start that dog by itself, and you can see it succeed, because when it learns, it's not learning from nobody but itself, and it ain't picking up another dog's habits either. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, well, I will agree with you. I started a lot of hounds, especially when I lived in Alabama, just by taking them to an old branch and dropping them out, and I start walking with them, and they run off from me. I cut my light off and let them do what they're going to do, and eventually that night you take them, you turn them loose, and they run off from you, and they end up with a coon treat at the other end. So I definitely believe that you are right, that it can happen that way. I do use a older dog from time to time, but I personally like hunting two dogs together is the main reason, and I want to have something that'll tree a coon. And I do agree you don't have to shoot coons to them. I especially where I'm at, I do not shoot very many coons. Just if I got a young dog, I'll give a young dog a coon, but that old dog, she don't need no coons. I don't have the coon population to be shooting them.
Right. Yeah. You can sit back and watch your area and you'll know what kind of coon population you got. In the summertime, I think I can train a dog. I don't think, I know I can. I can start hunting a dog in the springtime. I have to drive about an hour and 15 minutes to get to any good hunting. And you imagine doing that through the summer months. You got 2 hours to hunt, and I drive an hour, and you get over there and you hunt for 2 hours or so, and then you got to drive that hour back home, and you're out 2.5 hours of driving, needless to say, and trying to train dogs. But I can do a dog more justice in the summertime than I can in the fall of the year. And it seems to me, the coons move better. They got better tracks. And, I just love spending that time with that young dog. And a lot of people says, well, it's too hot. Well, I promise you, I would rather wipe sweat out of my eyes than freeze to death. I mean, it's just something I hate cold. I mean, after working out in it all day, I don't like laying in it at night. And it's just the cold weather. It's just brutal. And but these dogs, a dog that'll go hunting. You don't really, you don't have to stay out there in the cold. You don't have to sit. You can sit in the truck and just cut them loose. We actually went there. Me and a friend of mine, Chad Kennedy. He's got some really nice walker dogs. They're out of that South Stylish Rebel bloodline. One's a direct son and the other one's a grandson, and those walkers right there are some fine hounds. They're really nice too, real accurate, hard hunting dogs. And I've been quite pleased here lately to get to hunt with some different guys with some really nice dogs. And it seems to me like that circle, once you step out of that circle, it's a sigh of relief. I swore off that I would only hunt a leopard hound. And, you don't have to be just biased of hunting one breed. And, if I can succeed with them, I believe I can succeed with anything, because I was at the low end of the bucket. If you can take something that's got a little bit more mixed into it with a little bit better, sky's the limit. I don't, my goal is to be a world champion. That is my goal. If you say it's not, well, you don't have much of a goal. I want to be the number one, and, I know with the Lord's help, I can do it, because, when you put God first in your life, which, I've been, like I said, been raised in church my whole entire life. I've strayed away from the Lord, not been where I needed to be. But in the past 3.5 years, God use me in ways I didn't think I would even be possible. And if you would put your faith and your trust in the Lord and you put Him first, you'll be blessed. And I shouldn't even have the dogs that I have today because I made my dogs my God, and I put them dogs before my family. I put them before everything. And technically, I shouldn't have what I have because I went about it the wrong way. And you got to put your family in there, and your family's got to be the main thing, and then the Lord. And but if you're going to give them your all, you got to make time for them hounds too, and you got to have a family that's willing to work with you to be able to hunt. And if everybody meets halfway, you'll succeed. And I believe that wholeheartedly in my heart.
Man, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. You are 100% right. I think if you put the Lord first, He'll bless you. I think He's definitely honored you. Even though you may not understand why you have it, I think because you honored Him, He'll honor you. It says that in His Word. And I use that phrase from where the red fern grows on my kids all the time when they bring something up where the granddad says, if you'll meet God halfway, He'll meet you. And I truly believe that. I really couldn't have said that better. And I really appreciate you saying that. And not that you need any accolades or anything, but just if you didn't pick up on it or you don't know who Jason Keene is, the Jewel dog that he was talking about won the 2021 perennial points for the leopard hounds. Is that right, Jason?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We won high scoring leopard hound at Leopard Days, and we won Queen of the Hunt. The year before that, we won Queen of the Hunt, and I won King of the Hunt with Moose. That was in 2020. And the only thing I hunted this year at Leopard Days this past year was Jewel. And she, like I said, that was a great accomplishment. And actually in 2019, I won, in 2017 with Moose, I won the World Championship, the American Leopard Hound. In 2018, I won the Prina National breed winner with Moose, and I placed third overall in the final cast. And then in 2019 at Autumn Oaks, I won the National Grand Night Champion at Autumn Oaks with Moose. And, God has been good to me. I mean, I've been blessed beyond measures. And these dogs, like I said, I gave them what I should have gave them. I gave them the opportunity. I put the time into them. And I believe if other people would do that with these dogs, I believe they can succeed. But like I said, it takes that meeting halfway. Just going out there shoveling dog crap and just giving them a little feed every day. That ain't gonna cut it. My dogs are all trained. I live right in town. I can drop the tailgate on these two Walker dogs I got to the house, or Moose or whatever. They got a pattern. I can go let the tailgate down. They'll go get in the truck. I unload the tailgate and open the tailgate, and they'll go get in their kennel. They know how to do that. It's because repetition. And you keep repeating something time and time again, it becomes natural. And that's how they get good. And I believe in that. I believe in hard work because nothing comes free. I mean, if you're going to succeed, it takes hard work. You can't. I remember as a kid looking at coon hunting bloodlines and looking at the Full Cry, and I said, you imagine being in one of these magazines one time, just what it would mean to be in there, and I've had opportunity being in them magazines. And, I just sit back and say, I accomplished something that most people just only dream about. And as a kid, it was a dream, but the dreams come true. But where do you go from now? And from now, I see in the future, I would hope that the leopards will keep succeeding and keep getting better. But it takes everybody working together. The jealousy has got to be put behind the past. The past is the past and move towards the future. And if you're gonna see better things, and better things are to come, I promise you that. But in the next few years, I'll probably be hunting a different hound. I don't know if I'll stick with just walkers. I will hunt anything that will run a tree of coon and do it right. And I really am thankful, and I have been blessed, and I really appreciate you asking to do this podcast. It really means a lot to me, and it's a great opportunity. And most of all, if someone doesn't know the Lord as their Lord Christ as their Savior, Jesus, that's the only way out of here. This world right now, I've got friends that are sick, and it's very sad when you see people that are going through things in their life, and it's very disturbing. But right now, our only hope and the only way out of here is through Christ. And if someone doesn't know Christ as their Savior, all you got to do is ask Him to come into your life, and repent of your sins, and change your way. And that's what I've done for my life. Like I said, I was raised in church my whole entire life, and I still strayed away. And but I found that path. One night I spoke at church, and paths. You watch it in a field up here on these mountains. They got cattle fields up here in these mountains, and these paths. If you follow them paths, they lead to a water hole. And some words, you're going to have a drink. You're going to get to the lowest point in your life, and you're going to need a drink. And I tell you, Jesus is that drink, and you'll never thirst again once you taste of that water. But this has been very emotional, and I couldn't make it without the Lord every day of my life. And I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, Jason.
Hey man, I appreciate you taking your time out to be on the Coonhound Collective podcast, and I really appreciate you putting that out there about the Lord and pointing people to Jesus. Jesus has changed my life for the better, for sure. And that's what it's about me. And I love to be out in the woods. I love to hear a dog bark. I love to see a coon at the end of the trail. But when I reach to the end of my trail, I want him to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And that's what it's truly about for me and for many people that I know. So I really appreciate you saying that. Well, I think we're about shined the tree here. Do you have a coon hunting story you could share with us before we sign off?
Yeah, I'll tell you this quick story here. One night, me and my grandfather, he passed away. He had dementia. He passed away been about 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember this hunt. I was about 17, 18 years old, and we got together. Me and my uncle, my dad, he didn't get to go on this hunting trip, and it's back when we still had it. My grandfather had an old blue tick at that time, and we drove probably about 2 hours from the house, and we left pretty early. It was still daylight. We got over there, and where we was going, this little place, it's called Rolling Fork. It was a national forest. We drove up in there, and there was some big flat bottoms up in there, and we pulled up in this spot, and we parked the truck and got out, and it was just getting dark. And we turned the dogs loose, and like I said, we didn't have no tracking systems or nothing, and we was just going to start walking off behind the dogs. And, just a few minutes, I heard that old blue tick of his open up, and she went in there, and she rolled it over and started a tree. Papa said, "Well, she's probably got an old possum." We walked up in there, and she had 3 coons treed in that tree. We walked up there, and we shot one of them out. And Papa said, "You know what? We've had a good hunt. We're going to the house." we went back to the truck, and we was actually in an old Bronco, and we drove that Bronco, and we started back out of there, and we got within about a mile from my house, and I'll never forget this. There was 3 coons run across the road in front of the truck. And that night, said, imagine that. We seen 6 coons. That was just really unbelievable, seeing 6 coons in one night, And but we got to we treed 3 of them. And we got home, and that's one of the one of the last hunts I can remember going with my grandfather, he started getting dementia and got very sick. And, it's sad, but, I'm going to carry on that legacy as long as I can. And I'm going to keep a coon hunting, and Lord help me, just give me strength.
Yeah, that's pretty cool there to remember your last hunt with your grandfather like that, for sure. Well, Jason, I really appreciate you taking your time out to be on the Coonhound Collective podcast today. Hopefully we can do this again and maybe meet somewhere on the trail at a competition hunt, so I can shake your hand and really thank you for taking your time to be on here.
Well, I sure appreciate it, Jason. And like I said, I want to say it right here. I want to thank my wife, Jessica Keene, and my son, Corbin Keene, for putting up with me chasing these dogs night after night. A happy wife is a happy life. And, I hope, I'm so thankful that she puts up with me, because I couldn't do it, without her support.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat, man. My wife and kids, they put up with me being gone and hunting at night and, taking my time out to do things like this. And I really appreciate my family as well. It takes a family behind you to really be successful at doing things like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Jason, I sure appreciate you being on here, and I won't hold you up anymore. I don't want to take any more of your time up. I really appreciate you cutting out some of your time today to spend it with us here and sharing your story about your hounds and your hunting.
Well, I sure appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Buddy.
Yep.
Bye.
All righty, bye. Thanks, guys, for listening to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you don't mind, head over to Facebook and give us a like, and head over to Instagram and give us a follow. It's both at the Coonhound Collective. Also, if you would like to reach us here at the Coonhound Collective, you can reach us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. If there's someone that you would like to hear on the podcast or a product that you would like to hear talked about, please send it to thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.